Hi, I'm Damon Bonser, CEO of the British Design Fund, and I'm joined today by Claire Trant, co-founder of Untap. Hello, Claire, how are you?
Oh yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Well, we're very excited. You are our latest investment, one of the investments from BDF5. So great to have you as part of the portfolio. We like to do these short little interview sessions with the founders, just to hear from you, hear about kind of why you started the business, a bit about your background. Give our investors, our followers, and the general public a bit of an insider view about what's going on with some of our portfolio businesses. So do you want to kick off? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. It would be great to hear from you.
Sure thing. So yeah, I've worked broadly in engineering and tech about 10, 12 years. Did my undergrad at Imperial and then went to work in energy tech for a few years. And I've always done engineering consulting on the side, mainly due diligence for investors, explaining really deep tech in a more palatable way for people that haven't got a background in tech or in science. But then I moved into a PhD with Rolls-Royce, which was really exciting. For 4 years, we looked at aerospace engines, how they failed, why they failed. And I specialized in turbine blades. And actually, that alloy is now being used in Ultrafan, the Rolls-Royce Ultrafan now. So it was a very exciting 4 years. But during that time, I also co-founded another company in material tech, which fundamentally didn't work, but I learned a lot. And then also continued working in consulting in due diligence for investors. And that was actually predominantly in sewage tech during my PhD. Really enjoyed it, looked at some really exciting technology. And that's actually what I moved into after I finished my PhD. I moved into sewage tech. And that's essentially how Untap started.
So not everyone will know what Untap is about. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what the business does, the problem you're addressing, and then kind of if there was a moment or like a sort of eureka moment when you came up with the kind of main concept for the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually joined Entrepreneur First to start with. I met my co-founder Jay there. And what I'd seen during the pandemic was, so wastewater-based epidemiology is where someone goes to a wastewater site. So for example, wastewater treatment works, and they take a sample of sewage. And that sample of sewage represents the whole population of a city, or it can be of a building. It depends where you collect it from. And that collective sample represents the health of the whole community. It's like a snapshot of the health of the whole community. And the really great thing about sewage is you excrete viruses from day zero of infection. So before you show any symptoms, you can tell whether someone's sick. So you can tell the collective health of the community, what is going to happen to that community over the course of the next 7 days. So it's a really, really cool way of looking at the community's health. Very cheap, you do loads of people at once. But the problem is, it's pretty gross. It's really expensive, and no one actually wants to do it. It costs about £1,000 to do a sample, between £500 and £1,000, and takes about a week. By the time you've got the data is already too old to be actioned. So it's kind of chicken and egg problem. So Jay has a background, he has a PhD from Imperial in water tech, making novel water tech affordable. My background was in sewage tech. It's more from an oversight point of view. So we came together to say, hang on, what if we could make this tech small enough to fit under a manhole, affordable for your average community, and real time, so you can actually action the data. And that's what we've gone out to achieve. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I remember one of the things that we recall from your pitch, we were quite sort of shocked by, is that you said a lot of the lockdowns throughout the UK, and I'm sure many parts of the world, were kind of driven by this kind of fairly primitive way of taking samples, right? Literally the government paying contracts to people to kick off manhole covers, send something down, collect a sample and send it to a lab and wait 7 days. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. It's unbelievable. A lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this won't have been aware of that.
Yeah, so wastewater-based epidemiology, a great word, has been used across the world since the 50s. It was used to track and eradicate polio, but sadly, polio has now been found again in the UK sewers and New York sewers. And it's been used across the world to track COVID-19. And actually, there's a commission, the EU Commission has said that every town over 150,000 people has to test their sewage for COVID-19 and novel pathogens. We use it around the world for so many different things. It's a really great insight tool. The lockdowns in the UK were done on sewage, not just PCR testing or lateral flows. As everyone realizes, lateral flows now, they're not that accurate. They're a great tool. They're fundamentally essential to our checking the health across the UK, but they're not that accurate. And then PCR tests are really expensive and quite slow. So in between those, wastewater-based epidemiology has been the way, just like a help guide the policy. And yeah, it's been an essential tool that no one really wants to talk about because it's a bit gross, but it's a fantastic tool.
I'm interested with the sort of, whether there was a eureka moment or not. Were you thinking about this before the pandemic?
So actually, I had never come across this until the pandemic. The government was doing hundreds of samples a week, and I saw this from my professional career before, and my co-founder Jay saw it actually in a different space before. So I only saw it when the pandemic started and saw that the government was trying to find any which way to solve the problem. They went about it in two different ways. One was the asking medical companies, medical academics to try and solve the problem, and also doing a lot of manual testing. My co-founder, Jay, saw this before. He actually was looking at river water. So in the rivers and streams in the UK, we have hormones and pharmaceuticals being put into them, either through human, passing through their body, or just from general use. But anyway, there's these hormones in the water, and it's causing boyfish to turn to girlfish. And he was actually working on looking at pharmaceutical detection in our rivers and streams. So he was looking at it before, and he came at that knowledge.
Interesting. So you mentioned Jay, your co-founder. So who else in the team is there, if anyone else at the moment?
Yes, we've hired 3 full-time employees in the past 2 months, which has been absolutely fantastic. So now there's 5 of us full-time and 1 part-time employee. We have Ali, who's a biochemist who developed assays for PerkinElmer. So he looked at COVID, flu, and other things, and he's doing our assay development. So we're now doing COVID, flu, and norovirus, and looking at expanding to other viruses. We have Nyasha, who actually was at Entrepreneur First before, a cohort before. He's doing electronics. He's really great. And we've got Navid as well, who's used to work the UK's version of CERN, so Diamond Light Source. He worked there before, and he's doing our mechatronics, developing our pumps, and really turning our prototype into a product, turning it from that ugly unit that we don't want anyone to see into something that we can really deploy. Okay, it's going to be in customers' sewers, but we still want it to be vaguely attractive. So he's really helping us achieve that. We also recently hired a woman called Fatima. She's doing a master's at UCL in genomics, but comes 1 day a week to help us write grants and do some more of the more medical writing of some of the grant writing.
Yeah, which can, as you and me have spoken about before, they're amazing. We have a lot of interaction with Innovate UK, but they can take a huge amount of time with the founders when they understand you to write the applications and the reports. Great. So what's on the sort of what's on the plan for the next sort of 12-18 months, and what can we expect to see from Untap?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've made a prototype, and we're now designing it for manufacture so we can build it and put it in customers' sewers. We're starting with care home groups the next 6 months, and we'll be hopefully deploying into many care home groups and moving into offices as well. That's our next 12 months. As I said before, we started with COVID-19, but flu this winter is meant to be really bad. Australia's seen a bad wave already. So we will be focusing as well on flu in early 23, moving into norovirus, and potentially also RSV. There's meant to be a terrible wave of RSV next year. As I've already mentioned, polio was found in customers in the UK's sewers. I really hope that isn't a big wave next year, but we're prepared in case it is. And it's a really scary reality. Like, we're seeing more pandemics every year. All you need to do is look at Southeast Asia and you see SARS and MERS. The more we live in a dense urban environment, the more we encroach onto habitat and wildlife, the more likely we are to hit more pandemics. So we're really preparing ourselves to be able to roll out units very quickly. So we want to be able to design so we have a unit that's very robust to be manufactured at a moment's notice.
And look, I know it's not it's unfortunate, you're addressing a very important need and solving and addressing a very important problem out there. I know it's not a hugely uplifting topic, but by your technology being out there, it can have a huge impact on people's lives, the way we live, avoid obviously lockdowns, but even beyond COVID, this is what we see the potential in your business for more than just COVID, obviously. Absolutely,
yes. So there's this really incredible stat that every organization loses around 4% productivity to flu and norovirus each year. That's pre-COVID, but no one seemed to care or do anything about it because they didn't think they could. Now, that's something we haven't got to live alongside. We haven't got to expect we're going to catch flu at winter time. And if you're vulnerable, autoimmune, or got any problems, that was something that was actually very scary for a lot of people. That doesn't need to be the case. And so we're really trying to address that issue and explain to people that they can be more proactive about it and reassure the people that are vulnerable in society. As the society gets older, the population is shifting to being an older population. And we're also able to live alongside vulnerable issues now. People survive with issues much more. There's going to be more vulnerable people in society, and we want to keep them included. And this is something that I think is essential to that.
Yeah, great. Well, Claire, we are very excited to be coming on this journey with you, and we look forward to supporting you and getting you launched into market. So it's going to be a busy 12, 18 months, I suspect. But thanks for your time. Thank you.
Bye.